Today is Friday, February 21st. We're talking about the latest federal employees to lose their jobs, and which conservative firebrand is just starting his job as head of the FBI. Also, a heartbreaking handoff in the Middle East that could compromise the future of the ceasefire deal in Gaza. Plus, the CDC is pulling its ad campaign for flu vaccines. A political rivalry is spilling into the ice hockey rink, and college students are inspiring others to search for life's good moments. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Trump just got the go-ahead to keep firing federal workers. A group of government employee unions sued in hopes of at least pausing the job cuts that have already impacted thousands of people. But the federal judge who took up the case yesterday said the court does not have the jurisdiction to do anything about it. So unless the Federal Labor Relations Authority takes it up, Trump's job cuts continue. Just yesterday, an IRS executive reportedly told staffers about 6% of the agency's workforce is getting cut in the middle of the busy tax season. Thousands of other jobs have been cut at the FAA, TSA, U.S. Forest Service, Departments of Energy, Education, Homeland Security, and Veterans Affairs, and elsewhere. Also, reports say the CIA is planning its largest mass firing in nearly 50 years, and that the new defense secretary has been showing Republicans a list of top military generals and officers he wants to see fired. And yes, all of this is separate from the buyouts Trump offered that tens of thousands of workers accepted. Many Republicans have praised these actions, saying they're reining in a federal workforce they see as bloated, corrupt, and not loyal enough to President Trump. But Democratic critics say Trump is exceeding his authority and hacking away at popular and critical government programs. Either way, many more job cuts are expected in the days and weeks to come. One of the biggest names behind the government cost-cutting effort is, of course, Elon Musk. And it's a job he seems to enjoy. Musk appeared at the Conservative Political Action Conference yesterday, waving a chainsaw in the air to symbolize how he's slashing government jobs and budgets. Musk said since being in Washington, D.C., there have been times when he's been able to cut billions of dollars in the span of an hour. And he said he's doing all of it with empathy for the American taxpayer. But critics say he's actually showing very little empathy for Americans who benefit from the programs he's cutting. And in at least a few cases, the criticism has been coming from both sides of the aisle. For example, both Democrats and some Republicans say they were furious to learn Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, cut the 9/11 Survivors Fund last week. Then last night, the fund was apparently restored. Well, as part of the ceasefire agreement, Hamas returned 4 bodies to Israel. It was a moment seen as a reminder of the viciousness of the attack that started this war back in 2023. Israel's government says all 4 were Israelis brutally murdered by terrorists. Hamas says they were killed by Israeli airstrikes. The militants put on a big display for this handoff with 4 coffins placed on a stage with triumphant music in the background and a poster that warned if Israel returned to war, even more hostages would return in coffins. The United Nations has called the display abhorrent and cruel. And it was only made worse early this morning. The Israeli military said only 3 of the 4 bodies returned actually belonged to the hostages who were supposed to be handed over. One was a retiree and peace activist. 2 others were young brothers who were just 4 years old and 10 months old. Their father was seen in a Hamas propaganda video sobbing over the news that his family had been killed, and he was released from captivity earlier this month. The 4th body delivered yesterday, though, was supposed to be the boy's mother, but Israeli forensic testing found it did not belong to her. The Israeli military described it as a violation of the utmost severity of the ceasefire agreement. The next step was supposed to come tomorrow, with Israel freeing more women and minors from Gaza who were detained during the war, and Hamas freeing the last 6 living hostages. But the future of the whole truce is now in doubt. To be continued. It's a new era for America's most powerful law enforcement agency. The Senate confirmed Kash Patel as the new director of the FBI, an agency he's often criticized and wanted to tear down. Republicans who support him say the FBI has unfairly targeted conservatives like President Trump, and they see Patel as someone who can change that. But Democrats have voiced concerns about whether Patel is qualified since he has no experience as a senior law enforcement official, and they've questioned his ability or even desire to keep the FBI independent from the White House. Those concerns are reflected by the narrow margin of his confirmation vote. Patel got 51 votes out of 100, just enough to get him confirmed. For comparison, the last 3 FBI leaders each got at least 92. Now that he's confirmed, Patel says he plans to shift the FBI's focus away from terrorism and counterintelligence back toward fighting violent crime on America's streets and combating illegal immigration. Former GOP leader Mitch McConnell has been one of the few Republicans willing to vote against President Trump's nominees, but he did vote yes on Patel. And yesterday, McConnell also turned 83 years old and announced he plans to retire at the end of his term, ending his 4-decade career in the Senate. We have more news for you still ahead, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Ancient Nutrition. For thousands of years, explorers searched for the mythical fountain to restore youth and cure anything. And it was never found, despite what some people on social media may try to tell you. But hey, we do have collagen at least. It's surely not a miracle, but it is proven to help you look and feel more healthy. Ancient Nutrition's mission is to create high-quality supplements that combine the best of ancient wisdom and modern science. Ancient Nutrition's multi-collagen advanced lean supplement contains 10 types of collagen from 10 real food-based sources. It's powered by clinically studied ingredients that promote healthy weight management and building lean muscle. Collagen can also reduce joint discomfort and improve the look and growth of your skin, hair, and nails. So I love knowing that I'm doing something good for my body every day by adding just a scoop of this in my morning smoothie or coffee, and it helps me feel my best. Right now, Ancient Nutrition is even offering 25% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. That's ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy for 25% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Don't expect to see many more ads encouraging Americans to get their flu shots. The Health and Human Services Department ordered the CDC to pull its vaccine campaign, even in the height of a historic flu season. The move to pull the campaign also comes during vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s first full week as head of HHS, though it's not clear if he's the one behind this decision. Meanwhile, a panel of experts that advises the CDC on vaccine policy was supposed to meet next week about RSV and flu vaccines, a new meningitis vaccine, and more. But that meeting got postponed without a future date set. Kennedy has been critical of the panel, and it's now on the list of federal advisory committees to be reviewed. But more than 50 medical experts and organizations say the meeting holds tremendous weight. They wrote Kennedy asking for it to be rescheduled. Also this week, RFK Jr. promised to investigate the childhood vaccine schedule that prevents measles, polio, and other dangerous diseases. Though to be clear, it's just a review and no changes have actually been made. All week, corrections officers have been striking in New York State, and now there have been some inmate uprisings. The latest one happened at a correctional facility in upstate New York when inmates started breaking glass and trashing the dorms. The guards who were still inside fled their posts, worried about their safety. So emergency teams were sent in to get things under control. Later, the state corrections department put an end to all prison visits until further notice. All this comes as corrections officers at nearly 40 facilities are on strike. Workers are protesting conditions they say have left them chronically understaffed and forced into mandatory overtime that sometimes means 24-hour shifts. They also want the state to pay them more and undo recent limits on solitary confinement. But the strike is not actually authorized by the workers' union, and the state is demanding officers get back to work or face punishment. In the meantime, New York's governor sent thousands of National Guard members to help, and she promised to work on safety reforms and pay raises. Remember that controversial kiss at the end of the last Women's World Cup? The man who was head of Spain's soccer federation at the time kissed a player on the lips soon after she led her team to its first world title. And the player says it was not consensual. Well, now that man, Luis Rubiales, has been found guilty of sexual assault over the incident. Rubiales is going to have to pay more than $10,000 in fines. He's also no longer allowed to get within 200 meters of the player or try to communicate with her for a year. So far, no comment from Rubiales, but he is expected to appeal. Rubiales already resigned from his job as head of Spanish soccer. One of the biggest international hockey games in years ended up being especially heated in the worlds of both sports and politics. The first Four Nations face-off tournament all came down to Team USA versus Canada last night, and Canada won it in overtime. The whole tournament was highly anticipated since NHL players were not allowed to compete at the Olympics, so this was seen as their big chance to compete on the behalf of their countries. And with political tensions rising between the U.S. and Canada, the stakes were raised even more. President Trump called the American players ahead of the game and taunted Canada on social media, once again calling it America's 51st state. Then after the game, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrote on social media, quote, "You can't take our country and you can't take our game." Speaking of hockey rivalries, tomorrow marks 45 years since what's known as the Miracle on Ice, or as Sports Illustrated has called it, the most iconic moment in U.S. sports history. In 1980, the underdog U.S. hockey team, made up of amateurs, defeated the defending gold medal-winning Soviet team at the Winter Olympics. 2 days later, Team USA went on to win gold. Besides just being an Olympic upset, the so-called Miracle on Ice was to many Americans symbolic of a Cold War victory. The improbable win was later memorialized in a movie, Miracle, starring Kurt Russell. That's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor. When I wear anything from Honeylove, I can instantly tell so much thought went into every aspect of what I'm wearing, from the feel, to the function, to the fashion. So it came as no surprise for me to learn that Honeylove is an independent, female-founded brand that is intelligently designed by women who actually wear the products. Honeylove shapewear, for example, it's designed to move with you, so no more pulling it down or up anytime you walk around. I also love the designs and the fabric of Honeylove shapewear. It in some ways feels like part of a great outfit that makes me look and feel better, instead of something that I need to hide or be embarrassed about. And if you've been listening for a while, then you also know that I adore Honeylove's Legging 2.0, my favorite legging for everyday wear, hands down. So treat yourself to the best bras, shapewear, and leggings on the market. Save 20% off Honeylove at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off. honeylove.com/newsworthy to find your perfect fit. After your purchase, they ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style with Honeylove. Okay, now back to Feel Good Friday. So this is a simple idea that turned into a viral moment and a reminder that happiness can be found in the little things. At the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a microphone was set up next to a sign that read, quote, "Tell us something good that happened to you today." Well, students started to share just small everyday joys, like waking up on their first alarm, petting a dog, talking with a friend, or getting the bus on time. For example, one student originally felt like her day was not great, but when she stepped up to the mic, she reframed it. She had a productive morning. And that simple shift in perspective changed her outlook and was one of several responses featured in a video that now has over 3.4 million views. The video was created by Andrew Lamb, a content producer at UNC who wanted to remind people that happiness does not have to come from big moments. He was inspired by his sister who stayed positive even during her battle with breast cancer. The video struck a chord online, with people commenting on how relatable and heartwarming it was. Like one comment online said, "All the little things, they aren't so little." All right, we'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode about what could be next for Ukraine 3 years after Russia invaded. Then join us again on Monday for another Daily News Roundup. For now, thank you so much for listening and have a great weekend.